Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Friday evening. This is Blair Miller in the Atlanta News First newsroom, and we're getting ready for our newscast here tonight on this Friday night at 10 and 11. And it's been quite a week with all the visits by the politicians in and out of Georgia, in and out of Atlanta area, and that's going to continue throughout the weekend. But thanks for joining us here tonight. We've got a good-looking weekend ahead weather-wise, and we'll hear from meteorologist Patrick Pete here in a few minutes. But as we get started, I want to give you a quick update on some of the major stories we're following here tonight and throughout the day. And here's some of what's making news here tonight.
Presidential candidates furiously trying to win over Georgia. Former President Donald Trump will be in Atlanta on Monday. His running mate J.D. Vance visits tomorrow. Vice President Kamala Harris was just here yesterday. Second gentleman Doug Emhoff will visit Sunday. A well-known restaurant left charred tonight. A grease fire sparked inside Virgil's Gullah Kitchen in College Park yesterday. The owner is now figuring out how to rebuild.
Free YSL! Free YSL!
Protesters outside of the Fulton County Courthouse calling for accountability in the YSL trial. They're concerned about the length, the cost to taxpayers, and what they say are attacks on artistic expression. A new survey from the Georgia Gang Investigators Association reveals there are more than 127,000 known gang members in Georgia. That's an 80% increase from 2018. It's homecoming weekend for Spelman and Morehouse. The Maroon Tigers will take on Fort Valley State University at the Morehouse B.T. Harvey Stadium tomorrow. The number of people who got sick from an E. coli outbreak linked to McDonald's Quarter Pounders has grown to 75 people across 13 states. So far, no cases reported in Georgia. Weeks after the deadly mass shooting at Appalachian High School, a spark of joy. Country music star Jelly Roll will host a private concert for the Winder community tomorrow at Jug Tavern Park.
So that is some of what's making stories here tonight, some of the top stories here tonight that we are following. But as we, talk to you on this Friday evening, I know many of you have been voting. We've been looking at the early voting numbers. It's been now 2 full weeks of early voting, and you have about one more week of early voting. It ends, last day I think is November 1st, which would be next Friday. So you have one more week of the early voting, and we've seen huge numbers, not only here in Georgia, but all across the country. And that's why you're seeing these candidates, hit these swing states very hard, including here in Georgia. And so it seems like every day we're getting a new statement or new announcement from one of these candidates or the candidates for vice president who's saying they will be here in our area to campaign with some of these voters at the last minute. Mail-in ballots, the deadline was today for that, to get a mail-in ballot. And some officials saying even if you have a mail-in ballot, at this point you don't want to mail it in, you want to go drop it off to your post office. But one issue, we talk about, people voting. One Atlanta woman said her address on her voter registration suddenly changed, and she didn't know this. She didn't realize this. And in fact, we heard from someone else tonight who's saying the same thing, that this happened to them as well. And that can be pretty frustrating if you show up to the poll and you can't register, you can't vote there. The fix is pretty easy, but there's a lot of concern about how this is happening and maybe how many other people this could be happening to. And Atlanta News First reporter Patrick Quinn got some answers about what happened here and why this happened.
And I was just sitting there in shock, like, what on earth happened? I didn't change this. What do I do next? Who do I talk to? How do I fix this? And how does this affect my vote?
Ashley Kunkel jarred. She felt her vote was in jeopardy when last night she checked her voter registration page only to find her address had been changed earlier this week to an unknown location without her knowing.
It moved me all the way across the county to South County at a random address outside of the city.
All of a sudden, she could not vote in local races. She called a Fulton County voting hotline, who then sent her to the registrar's office. She said they changed her address on the spot. She said without asking for proof of residency or any qualifying questions. Resolved, and yet she wondered.
Why was it so easy to change my address and even change it back? And it still doesn't answer the question of what exactly happened.
I reached out to Fulton County. A spokesperson confirmed they corrected Ashley's address following proper procedures, adding, quote, regarding the voter, the registration rep verified her name, address, and date of birth before updating her address in the system. The application used to update the address was also reviewed before completing the update. Well, then who changed Ashley's address? I went by the one listed on her voter page. Knocked on the door, nobody was there. Ashley said she's never been to that house and has no relatives or friends there. Back in Northwest Atlanta, with a corrected address, the big question, could Ashley vote? We waited as she walked into her polling place and...
I voted. I got my sticker. I'm good to go. Crisis averted.
Patrick Quinn, Atlanta News First.
So obviously pretty frustrating for some voters who are trying to do what they want to do out there, but having some issue trying to do that. So and finding out, not until they get there. And so there's a way you can go online and you can check this as well through your voter registration, and you're advised to do that before you get there and realize there may be an issue. And so we'll be following this over the weekend as far as what's happening with the candidates as they make their way here to Georgia, and then as we get closer to Election Day on November 5th. But again, in states all across the country, people are showing up to these early voting sites and certainly getting their voices heard. So, excuse me, as we get the weekend started here, this weather has been really, I think, enjoyable in the afternoons, certainly in the nice, cool mornings. I think a lot of us have enjoyed it, but a lot of it focus has been about the dry October, and I want to bring in meteorologist Patrick Peak because I know this is stuff you've been tracking as well, how dry it's been, and you guys thought there might be a chance for a little rain maybe Sunday or Monday, but that seems kind of backed off a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, it's backed off.
I mean, it was kinda
Maybe
small,
maybe a stray
already,
sprinkle
right?
Sunday, but it's really not. It's not.
a big deal.
No, not at all.
One thing I've been wondering about, I know this will be the first time ever that we've had a month that didn't get rain.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Does that impact anything in the long term as far as, crops for the spring or anything like that might be something?
On its nose, not directly. Considering the fact that we just had a month where we picked up a foot of rain across most of North Georgia. Oh wow, you got me short.
There you go.
Okay, let's see.
Getting
There we
fancy.
go. This is made for someone shorter than me, but we're gonna let that ride. Yeah, this is me standing up, but we're gonna yeah, I'm gonna get down. We picked up a foot of rain across most of the area last month, so in theory, us being dry for 30 days is not a big deal. Not a big deal. Okay. That gets extended to 45, 50 days. Then we'll be looking at maybe the potential of being in a drought again. And with dropping air, lowering dew points, that happens with this time of year. The drier the air, everybody wants to build campfires and bonfires and all that mess. At that point, that's where that conversation would start to become, because you have dry soils, you have dry trees, shrubberies, they're dying, decaying because it's getting slightly cooler. And then if we had no rain to keep any of that wet and the dew points dropping, people are lighting fires can spread. But we're not there yet. But that's maybe a potential conversation once we get to day 45 and we see temperatures trend
cooler.
cooler.
This camera, because I know how old you are, and I'm worried about your back, so you might want to come on over here a little bit and hop on over here.
You do no, push that camera back on me. Don't make me tell these people that technically you're old enough to be my father. Don't make me tell. Technically, it is true.
Technically, no.
Technically, it is true.
Something might be wrong with your head.
Technically,
Come on
you're.
up here.
I mean, I'm the
Control
math.
The cameras and the mic. Tell me about
The math is what the math is. Good evening. How are y'all doing? Happy Friday. We made it to the end of the week. I don't know about you, but this was one of those weeks that I really wasn't rushing because every afternoon was gorgeous. Every day was picture perfect. And, there was just really no reason to look forward to the weekend other than not having to come to work. And I like coming here. So let's switch some things around real quick. If you guys can bear with me for about 10 seconds, we will be able to dive into the forecast for the weekend because I know that you all are trying to get out into the streets because I am too. The weekend is here. Feel free to drop in the comments if you have any questions, comments, suggestions in the chat. We'll dive into that. For now, let's talk about high pressure. High pressure is pretty. It's nice. It keeps things nice and quiet, especially this type of setup. Gorgeous skies out there today. Clear skies tonight. That's going to be our story as we head into the day tomorrow. Although we're going to be watching that cold front start to sink further south and east. 76 degrees right now in Atlanta, low 70s across the area, but we've already fallen into the 60s in some places like Lawrenceville and Athens. I think this is a gorgeous evening to be outside. I think Lindsay, one of our managers, was mentioning a bonfire tonight. I think it's a good night for a bonfire. Temperatures falling to the low 60s. You know, you don't want to be right up on the fire, but you can be in the vicinity. Mostly clear skies through the overnight. We'll fall to 60 here in Atlanta. Outside of the city, it's mid 50s, maybe some upper 50s sprinkled in there, but it's going to be nice. I think that's quite comfortable. Heading into Saturday, sunshine for the morning and early afternoon. Some clouds start to build in. I'm giving it about a 10% chance of a stray sprinkle north of Atlanta, in the mountains specifically, as this front tries to slide through our area. Doesn't look like a major player here. If the sprinkles fall on you, you won't even be turning the windshield wipers on. So it's just not a big deal. Heading into the morning hours, we're comfortably headed towards 70 by 10 o'clock. So anybody who's getting up early, go and grab some coffee. It's nice. And then for most of you who will be out at one music festival, I'm not sure who's out there tomorrow. I think Fantasia's out there. Maybe Sexy Red, maybe Jill Scott, maybe The Baby. They're out there. I just don't know which day. I looked at the tickets, and the tickets were selling fast, and I'm cheap, so we're going to let that ride too. Temperatures are going to be in the 80s, though, through the afternoon. 4 o'clock looks good, mid-80s, falling into the low 70s by 8 o'clock. It's a good day. You can dress for comfortable, warm temperatures. We're forecasting a high of 85. I know that we have been kind of focusing on the fact that that's a record high like today was, but it's the type of record high in the fall, like really they're not bad. It's warm, but it's not hot. You know, 85, it's a win. Clear skies tomorrow night, cooling temperatures heading into Sunday. I do think we're going to see more of an east wind, and it's the day-old or age-old question of how far does the wedge push to the west? How far does that cool air start to filter in? Right now, it does look like it's going to stop somewhere out east of Atlanta, which means that we're talking mid to upper 60s from Blairsville down to Athens. I think the further south and west you go, you'll see those warmer temperatures Sunday afternoon. Looks like we'll get into the low to mid 70s around the Atlanta metro area with warmer numbers down towards LaGrange, 77, LaGrange in Carroll County. The Halloween forecast is good. It's good. You know, some years it's like it could be cool, it could be chilly, there's a cold front coming through, it's going to rain. This year it's good. We're going to be at 80 degrees in the afternoon, which is going to borderline have you questioning if we're ready for fall, if we're really here. But by the evening when the kids are getting out and about, we're falling into the lower 70s. So I think it's going to be nice. It's going to be picture perfect for trunk or treat, trick or treat, and then for everybody else that's treating after 9 o'clock. It's going to be a gorgeous Thursday forecast. And I think we're nice as we head into Friday as well. So I always say I'm going to give you what you need. It's Friday night. Y'all got better places to be than me telling you that it's going to be nice 13 different ways. So I'm going to leave you with the 7-day forecast so that you can make your plans. Keep you for a good time, not a long time. You guys know where you can find us. We do this every night at 8 o'clock. Y'all have a fantastic evening.